Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. The man himself, Big Billy Ramsey, out on the hunt for the Smiley Face Killer with a smile on his face as he joins the Conspiracy Horsemen. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good to be back on with you. I don't know if you recall, we actually did some time together on the Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, I think maybe a year or so ago.
Sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
a couple times, I think.
Glad to be back. Right now we're waiting on our third co-host, but you're on with Stevie Richards and Greek God Papa on, and as well as Ben Hameen, man. So welcome to the Conspiracy Hole.
Great. Thanks for having me.
So just to catch everyone up, author and director of the Smiley Face Killers documentary, as well as, I was checking out some of your stuff social media wise, your books on Amazon. I was really pumped to see too. And I know we had touched on it before, but I had forgotten about it. So I definitely want to get into some little Aleister Crowley and kind of maybe split our time a little bit. But I don't want to take away from anything currently that you're trying to work or promote on. But I'm going to pass around the horn here. And Stevie, go ahead, man.
No, I'll let you guys go because I am really kind of in my infancy. I'll have follow-up questions, but I think I'm like most of the other people out there who really have never heard of this until Ben told us you were going to be on, sir. So it was just like an entire disturbing new world of intrigue and conspiracy that kind of opened up. And I really look forward to learning a lot more. Actually, I take that back. I don't know if I look forward to learning a lot more about this scary thing that's going on.
Yeah, it's very disturbing. There's probably 200 to 300 deaths associated with what's called the Smiley Face Killers, but we can just go in and talk detailed. But at least 200 to 300 worldwide for the last 25 years, maybe. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's because there's kind of like, well, I'm sure more than just two tracks on this, and I'd like you to explain that as we get into it. GGP, before we kick it off, man, I'll throw it over to you, bud.
Welcome to the show there, William. Just give the fans a rundown real quick, a synopsis, I would say. Just a couple of sentences on what the Smiley Face Killers are all about, because just like Stevie, I didn't know anything about this till Ben brought it up, and I did a little research. Pushed me back a little bit, saying, wow, all this happened and nothing was brought into the limelight regarding this matter. So why don't you give them a little rundown? Our fans aren't the sharpest tools in the shed. So
thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah,
thanks for listening, guys.
ProWrestlingTees.com. Go ahead.
Well, the basic synopsis is this disturbing phenomenon of young men being out at night, disappearing, and being found later in water at certain times and dates that are longer than to be expected. There's usually a massive search involving the families and the police. And really the way this phenomenon got its name was from the original two guys who were investigating it. It's Gilbertson and Gannon and Duarte, really, from New York, who found symbolism spray painted close to some of these bodies, a smiley face. So the mythological phenomenon, or the myth of this phenomenon, got the name Smiley Face Killers from the finding of this symbol. And so that's really the short. And there's a lot more details about it that I cover in my 3.5 hour documentary. But I was kind of a person who thought it was a myth. And the more that I researched, and there's a lot of other independent research going on. Mm-hmm. And there's been some incredible developments, recent developments. But, that's really the short synopsis.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk about those new developments. I was going to ask you, if you want to keep anonymity, you can. Is it possible to have you on video? I like the crowd.
I can do it. Yeah, let me just put I'm in California. Hold on just a second. Let me put my shirt on.
Yeah, put
got
your
a little
pants
competition.
He's like, let me cut my sleeves off quick. I got Stevie's sleeved up. I'm going to come back all jacked and tan. I'm in California, pal. Yeah, man. That is the long and short of it. There is a profile to the victims of this, which is interesting to me. But the amount of killings and the fact that it's global is a very strange way. I think there's kind of two schools of thought on this. But hey, great. I was just explaining. Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you yet.
Turn this on. Am I showing up at all?
There you go. There you are.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that's the synopsis. Is that?
I before we get into it, I want to just put this out there because this could be a huge break in the case. if I end up dead later this week, I just ordered a new router because I was having my other one cut out intermittently from White Tiger was the name of it. So if there's a code name or anybody sees anything White Tiger, that could be part of this as it goes forward. But inside, after I opened up the new router, this was inside waiting for me. And I'm not sure if, I may be next, if I am targeted because they knew you were coming on. We talked about it for 2 weeks. If the Smiley Face Killer is one of our listeners, and if this is found near my body, then White Tiger might have done it.
Well, that's the whole thing, is that a lot of people have discounted the meaning of the smiley face because it's so ubiquitous. It's used in so many different circumstances. But what they failed to discount is the occult use of the smiley face and the occult meaning of it. And I go into a significant amount of my documentary explains that there is an esoteric and an exoteric. The exoteric is just a happy smiley face, but the smiley face also can connote like a skull and suffuses the writings of William Burroughs, who was also kind of this idea of gay mafia. So, so my documentary shows all these references in common culture, particularly Alan Moore, who is the comic book writer, but he said he spent half of his time being a magician as well as a comic book writer, and he uses the smiley face in his well-known comic book, visual comic, The Watchmen, right? And the comedian is really the guy who has the smiley face, and for him, it's just a big joke to kill. So there's a sequence within the Watchmen book and movie where he's in Vietnam just blowing people away, smiling and having fun. So I do believe that there is a correlation in some of these crimes. Not every one of these missing men is found with a smiley face, but Gannon and Gilbertson actually say that there's 12 symbols. They found all kinds of other different tags that are associated with it, but that's really the mistaken analysis. There's actually kind of a semi-famous paper, and you can see it on my website, where all of these researchers got together and supposedly debunked the phenomenon of the Smiley Face Killers, and you can see it on my website. But it's the Center for the Homicide Research, and it's Drowning the Smiley Face Murder Theory, and it has about 15 people on it. But you can see my critique of that, and I discount all of the mistakes and analytical mistakes they made, which were actually kind of legion within that document. And I think that their problem is that they looked through the narrow focus of Gilbert Gannon. Gilbert and Gannon wrote really the first and most important book. It's an excellent book, really from a criminological perspective, because Gilbertson is a professor of criminology, and that is case studies in forensic drownings, or case studies in drowning forensics, excuse me. And so that book is available. Sorry. I
just want to say as well, just to put over, you are a bar associate in California lawyer, so it's not just as we've had other guests that may not have as much credential as you are, and this amount of time you've put into documentary isn't necessarily highly entertaining, and like it just wears you down of like how many there are that you have gone through all of the research. But more recently, I think there's been 2 new killings that are almost being directly attributed to this, and possibly based off of creating awareness of the work you've done, because even if there's these hundreds of killings, how many that may not have been caught on the symbolism that right. You could estimate another third. It could be another whole X amount. And then I saw the map where across America, when you connect these, it almost looks like someone's trying to draw a smiley face. You have great symbolism that relates back to the scene in Fight Club when they blow up the building and do the terrorism there. And, plenty of other movies where we've seen it on mirrors and whatnot where it's in there. So as opposed to, I wouldn't say a Charles Manson-esque or any type of serial killer, we're talking more in a scope of, like you said, maybe a gay mafia, an underground secret society, skull and bones, symbolism mixed into all of this.
Right.
Yes.
Just to interrupt, there's another couple smiley faces seated throughout Fight Club. And Palahniuk, if you watch my recent documentary, Occult Hollywood, which is kind of a redux of an earlier documentary I did 10 years ago, I go into the real story of Fight Club, which is really the book, which soap is human sacrifice. So there's a very strong theme of human sacrifice, and the ending of Fight Club in the book is different than what's in the movie. The ending of the Fight Club, the narrator, who really doesn't have a name in the book, he becomes Tyler Durden, which is a 5 and a 6 and 11. So Palahniuk knows occult illuminated numerology and their meanings. And that's another shocker that comes when you actually read Fight Club. But at the end, he shoots himself in the face, and the scar he leaves is a big grin, kind of like the Joker.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
So the symbology, and Palahniuk would call himself, and if you really key into him, he puts himself in the same type of literary tradition as Burroughs. So once you kind of see these in a lot of these movies, if you watch Fight Club from a cult perspective, Tyler Durden is starting a cult. Project Mayhem is a cult. It's basically, and in the book, Palahniuk talks about the place as being kind of like a Buddhist monastery. So these people are entering a monastic order. And so there are definite times. I don't have the resources to actually go out and find this. And that's one of the interesting developments is in some of these deaths, the FBI is actually showing up. So I know that they're kind of doing their job. It's important to note that the documentary that I put out was October 2017. So that's a time frame and a date. And we're almost at a 2-year mark from that when there's been tons of other murders and developments and stuff like that.
Real quick, just let the listeners know what your website is, because you said it's the retort to the case study, that we're trying to debunk.
My YouTube channel is William Ramsey Investigates, and I've been doing a lot of interviews, so you can see that there. But it's Debunking the Failed Debunkers is the title of that video. It's about 18 minutes long, so I go in detail and basically critique that. But I also the movie is on Vimeo, so it's the Smiley Face Killers, who is abducting, torturing, and murdering college-age men in the U.S. and UK, which is actually doesn't fully encompass the global phenomenon of what this is, because there's been deaths in Germany, Austria, all over the place. So it's really a global phenomenon. There's a lot in Australia, believe it or not. So I think one of the things when I analyzed the cases, I took a much broader angle. I really had a great researcher. The guy's name is Jim Smith. Smiley Face Cult is his Twitter feed. And he's really likable person. Like, I cover a lot of different stories. He's really laser. I actually think that he's the most important researcher of all time on this subject, because he was the one who really keyed into the enormity, the multi-jurisdictional enormity of these crimes. And he's still getting cases. Like, I couldn't even keep following. It's just too grim. But I think the real trick is
questions I kind of had for you and going forward, because the victims, as you put out, fit a profile: young male, college age, attractive, late at night, end up in the water. The symbolism's there. They end up being drowned, which, is some type of asphyxiation, not necessarily
drowned. Found in water is actually much more accurate. So the assumption that they're drowned is a false assumption.
Right. That's just to decompose the bodies so you can't get more forensic evidence from it. But it's fitting a pattern. And that's what I like, the fact of you being a lawyer, that the FBI is on it. And even in the trailer that you have on Vimeo, which we suggest everybody go and check that out. And the movie's only $4.99. So if you want a great 3.5-hour documentary that really outlines so much, definitely we implore you to check that out. But even in the trailer, you have great small clips of security cam footage of victims and people in the area and people being seen. And when I see something like that and I try and put the whole bigger secret society thing on it, it's tough to fit, because that puts me in an individual mindset in wanting to, let's get a profile of somebody. Is he, the one guy kind of looks like 180 pounds, 160 pounds, Hispanic, high dark hair. The other guy might not fit as much from what I see. The CCTV footage is a little fuzzy, but are we getting closer to a profile and actually narrowing it down to a geographic area?
A profile of the killer or of the victim? The killer?
Of the killer, yeah.
Well, like, I think my conclusion at the end of the documentary, I mean, I don't want to ruin it for people, but I think that there's multiple groups and individuals who figured out this technique through communication, through FedLife or one of these underground dark web things, and they figured it out. So I keyed into this guy, Lanfear, who literally had 2 young men in his house in the really kind of the epicenter of a lot of these cases that Gilbertson had seen, I think in Wisconsin. And one of the kids escaped, and he had somehow keyed into where he found his victims was late at night after bars, which is almost consistent with so many of these cases. They're late night at a bar, they've been drugged with GHB. That's what Gannon and Gilbertson found. So in a lot of the cases. But so I think it's
the whole finish of your movie and cost you any buys, man. We want to get you as many buys as possible.
Well, I'm very pleased with it. I think I put in way too much information, but I think when you get done, you'll have a much different, broader understanding of the phenomenon than what you could find. Even, I mean, I think Gilbertson and Gannon, by the way, were in an excellent 6-part series on the Oxygen Network that you can rent on iTunes and in the Apple Store or whatever, and they're each an hour and they cover 6 cases. But it's very important because they're working on the ground as police guys, asking questions and looking at stuff. And really, one of the most important cases to look into all these cases that really opens the eyes is a young man by the name of Dakota James who disappeared in Pittsburgh. And so they covered Dakota James, talked to his family, and that was where the mom walked out of an interview with the Secret Service and the FBI. So nobody knows why the Secret Service is there. But it's really one of the first cases where something changed in the government, that the government didn't have a passive, in what I would say, a neglectful view of these cases. So Joey LaBute.
You're with wrestlers. When you get somebody to sell for you like that who's trying to keep you locked out, you know you're on the right path, touching a nerve that way. Stevie, you had something you wanted to go to?
Yeah, I just, first of all, this is just really, like I said before, it gets more disturbing as I'm hearing more facts like this. And it seems way too organizational to be. I've seen different things about gangs. I've seen copycat. I've seen all these dismissive kind of debunking disclaimers attached to it. This just seems like a network, like you said, worldwide. And also, we were doing some research before and touching here and there in past episodes about the origin of emojis, about the origin of these things and how they have a satanic origin, which once again, I think connects to Illuminati, evil forces, and the Secret Service thing with Ben, and please elaborate on this, that just like clicks within me of deep state type stuff. All these things kind of cohesive with each other.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. I mean, I think that some of these emojis are sigils. They're hyper sigils. I think one of the kids who died in, I shouldn't say kids, the young men who died, I'm 50, so they're all super young to me, but one who died outside of Philadelphia, they had in the background a smiley face with this huge sigil up against the back of the wall. And, so some of these people are clearly drawing stuff. And I think that the involvement of the Secret Service connotes a lot of stuff that, I've kind of commenced a very casual study of gay serial killers. So I did a lot of shows on Eiler in the Midwest, this guy Frank, I think, out in the West Coast, and they move between jurisdictions. So I think that that's why the Secret Service is also involved, is some of these people might be flying in to other countries, committing crimes and leaving. So really the first case that I watched that somebody disappeared, when I really got into it, really clicked me into this phenomenon, was a guy by the name of Joey LaBute in Columbus, Ohio. And so I can't remember, he must have disappeared in 2016. And I said, if this guy's found in water, I'm going to freak out. And he disappeared out of a gay bar. And a lot of people missed, that was one of the kind of mysteries about the whole Smiley Face Killers, is they lost the element of the gay homosexual aspect to the case. But this guy was on, and there's also ties into Grindr on their phone. Both Joey LaBute and this kid, Joey LaBute and Dakota James were both on their phone. So there's like a huge, all they have to do is subpoena the records and try to figure out what's going on. So this serial killers or killer might be using these gay apps, and they did, and I keyed into that in my documentary. This guy, Stephen Port. But anyway, Joey LeBeau was... Hold on, let me just finish. Joey LeBeau was found in water like 18 or 19 days in an obvious spot in the Scioto River, close to where he was after a massive search, manhunt. So where was he for those time, the 18 days? In my understanding, I don't really get condition of the body. I don't get a lot of these autopsies, but I can tell you for a fact when they found Dakota James, he looked like he was dead for 2 days. He was missing for 40 days. Where is he for 38 days? That's what a lot of these guys can't explain, is that, and the government can't explain, and the people who negate this theory or phenomenon can't explain, is where are these people for the time, because the body will float after 3 and 4 days. So where are they?
Well, that's even more disturbing in a way, because that's keeping this guy alive for 38 days, and the torture aspect of it. It's a very sick, dark, twisted thing to even think about, holding somebody for potentially 38 days to have fun. I'm using air quotes on the audio, to have fun with them before you finally kill them. What a terrifying concept. The worst, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, kids are being sent off, the young people are being sent off to college again, and there really is a threat, not just to women, but young men who, for people, I've discounted, there's no financial issues with any of this. Nobody's asking for ransoms or anything. So these colleges, and I think they're covering it up. I think Dakota James is a perfect example of Duquesne, where he went to Duquesne, where they're not trying to, and there's just mass murder taking place in Boston. And they're just covering it up because they don't want to threaten, or they don't want to lose value, or they don't want to have the parents not send their kids there. So I would warn all you and your listeners and everybody that young men can be at a bar, be targeted, be drugged, disappeared, murdered, thrown in water, and the police won't do anything about it.
Yeah, it seems like expendable because of...
Oh, there's tons of politics involved. There's all kinds of things involved. I think that there's all kinds of issues that are brought to bear. And the other thing is that there's so many deaths that's happened, it's going to make the entire legal law enforcement community look like, what are you doing? Why are you just even emphasizing this?
Why are you easily being tricked? Does it go to Hollywood, the adrenochrome underground? Like, are they torturing these guys to extract all that kind of stuff? Like, is that all tied in? Anthony Weiner's laptop to Epstein's Island to human trafficking, as we've had on, forgive me, I can't remember his name. He was talking human trafficking, and they've brought home over 200 kids, retired in law enforcement, who they do this full time. So, is that all part of this underground tied in an American and European secret society?
Well, that's an excellent question. I can tell you this. In Hollywood, there is this kind of creepy underground. You got to look up this guy. You ever hear the story of Ed Buck? He's had 2 African-American guys taken out of his apartment dead after he hit him with methamphetamines, and he had some kind of toolbox. So that's an example. But there was another case that Mark Ebner keyed into. Mark Ebner is a pretty well-known Hollywood reporter who's done a lot of exposés on Scientology. And his name, I can't remember, but literally he had a dungeon, killed a guy, and went back to work. Like it was just an accidental death. So a lot of these people have these these sex dungeons. It's not a joke. And I think that's what, if you look at the story of Landfear and stuff like that, are these guys network sharing pictures? If you look at some of these guys, something's going on. If you look at a lot of these killers that I covered, Eiler, they're taking pictures, and they're also working in tandem with at least one other person. So I talked to Kolarek, who wrote the story of Eiler. Can't remember the title of her book, but her book was one of the few books that was in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. So she had an interesting time. This guy Eiler, who a lot of people don't know about, killed like 22. And if you look at the gay serial killers, their victim profile is the exact same profile of the Smiley Face Killers. All of their victims look like the Smiley Face Killer victims. So that should tell law enforcement a lot.
Is there anybody whose family, parents of a victim who's really biting into this and like pushing this theory forward, because, you know, I know the work that you've done and these other retired police officers, but I think until it hits from the mom, you know, on the evening news to get to who we call the Nancy Browns, the Wisconsin 55 to 65-year-olds, to shine some light on it, it's just going to stay pushed under the rug in the underground for people like us who are content creators trying to chase the truth of something bigger. Is there anybody like that who's pushing the narrative into the light?
That's a great question. I think Dakota James's mom has been on. So there's been 2 hearings with the mothers of some of the victims on Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz. I think Dr. Phil, yeah. So they actually feature. Right. So those are fairly sizable shows. Mm-hmm. And Gilbertson, Gannon, and Duarte were on Dr. Oz. So they did a sequence on Smiley Face Killers, which you can find on, and they promoted their show, which I highly recommend, all 6 of those shows. The one on Dakota James is incredible. And it's just another one of those ones that I watch. I said, if this guy gets found in water, like I'm literally watching the investigation, watching the missing persons. It's almost the same layout of the same thing, like families confused. And so I watched all of these 2 guys. I think what's really scary is Jim Smith has probably watched 30 people disappear and be found in water. Like he just watched the whole phenomenon from beginning to end. It's incredible. So, I don't have the resources and stuff like that. I've done a ton of shows with Jim, and there's tons of stuff on my YouTube channel that's free. You can just watch all the investigations that I did. And but I would say there's definitely an underground of researchers. There's probably 10 people who the public doesn't know, who have very detailed Excel spreadsheets, and people are definitely looking at it. There's a couple Facebook pages. So the information kind of gets out in odd ways, but there's a couple journalists. There's a really good journalist, a really good article about Dakota James. I can't remember the title. It was in the Daily Beast. Her name is Nicole Wisensee Egan, E-G-A-N. And she wrote a superb piece of real investigative journalism for the Daily Beast that covered Dakota James, that he was actually poisoned. He was actually drugged like 4 weeks before he was disappeared. So like somebody did a trial run or something with him where he woke up and didn't know where he was and there was like a black SUV, like what you would, like a person with money would rent. Right. So as far as people are still looking in, and I'm sure the government's playing, the government's, I think the Trump administration has changed a lot. And I say that to Trump's credit, because these other administrations, for whatever reason or another, whether it's that Obama, whatever his real name is, was hanging out at Man's Club in Chicago in a torture room called Room 11, it might have something to do with it, why it's not being covered.
Or, even if you want to go back to Pedogate, Pizzagate, at Comet Ping Pong, all that. And they love lists. So why not have a Smiley Face Killer list? We got the Clinton kill list. Like, let's just make some lists. GGP, I hate to say it, I know you're not college age, but you fit the profile. I think we could put you on Grindr and possibly use you as bait to bring this killer in, and we can finally put this whole thing to rest.
Well, I think he deleted the app while all this was going on. He got a little freaked out.
That was a good one.
We'll put you out there.
I'm glad you were able to get me. That was good.
Well, the interesting thing is that Grindr covers up a lot of the crimes that are in there that are actually associated with them. So there's disinterested. There's actually guys who roll gay guys on Grindr, and Grindr does not want to cooperate with those stories. So
in all seriousness, I've heard about the hate crime through that, and there's absolutely no protection for the people to use the app.
Yeah. Oh no, there's nothing, and I think they're resistant to giving information out to families if things go wrong. And it's important. I think the movie, the Stephen Port guy, was this guy with a different alias who was using all these gay apps, Grindr, had tons of GHB, was GHBing people like crazy. Tons of dead bodies. His body disposal strategy was to leave them in like a heroin-using church courtyard. And he wrote fake, so there's this level of deception. He wrote fake suicide notes. He wrote all the stuff. He was on Facebook looking at the victims' families, watching them to see if they were correct, onto him, and that's the kind of person, these Lanfear and Ports, these are the people that you want. And there's an inquest about Port in the UK because they bungled the case. So there are a lot of these cops made a mistake. And, so I think that you really got to look into these Grindr apps. The Grindr apps are dangerous, man. I mean, I think that any dating app, really, but the Grindr app, wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of trust in people. Stevie, Master Shoot Theater idea. Vince mixed his up as HGH for GHB. Just don't let me forget that.
Oh, no, not again.
Let me ask a couple questions. This guy, Dakota James, is that the kid that was found with his hands crossed over his chest like this?
No, that is Chris Jenkins. That's Chris Jenkins in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Fit the profile. Parents got his mom, Jan Jenkins, wrote a book about their son's case, and Ed Opperman interviewed her. So if you're interested, you can look at these interviews. And you can see these other people. We can go through the list of all the people I've run in who've seen little pieces, the regional pieces of the case. Spignola, who was supposed to be a really respected investigator who investigated the Colonial Parkway murders, has done a book that kind of semi-accepts this phenomenon. But Jan Jenkins wrote a book. Chris Jenkins, the autopsy found that he had hair in his hand as if he was fighting. He was found in a strange position. So that was another one with a lot of people involved. Kicked out of a bar. Bouncers had sketchy stories. It's kind of like Zach Marr in Boston, same type of thing. Contradictory stories between the friends of Zach Marr and the bouncer. So it shows that it looks like people are working together,
So another question that I have is that all these individuals that you've named and whoever else is unfortunately on this list, were they all homosexual? Were they all on this Grindr app?
No, that's what's scary is that there is definitely a gay component, but I would say half the victims are not. They fit the profile, but they're not involved in that lifestyle. But there's a significant amount that are.
Gotcha.
That are in. And if you start researching these guys, there's correlations to gay bars, S&M stuff. Very super sketchy. I mean, there's a really gnarly underground, man. There's a really gnarly.
Is there any connection to where it could be a bunch of women doing this?
Yes.
As opposed to being gay men or gay mafia, like a bunch of leftist, women who hate men because for whatever reason they didn't get to be prom queen with the popular guy in high school, and now they're just getting revenge.
Well, I think that's a potential. There's a case that I studied really in detail that was super disturbing. His name was Naz Rahimi out of Georgia, and he was kind of coming out. He was from Perth, Australia, so he was from a long way away. But he was hanging out with this crew of people, men and women, who were into the BDSM underground, gay bars, all kinds of weird, the smiley faces. Before he disappeared, he's pictured in these pictures with people with smiley faces. A lot of women who like witches, just really crazy stuff. But so that's kind of like my conclusion. When you see the regionality and the totality, it's a mistake to say that there's one person doing it. I think there might be somebody really smart going through jurisdictions, knowingly throwing off police. But like I would say, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the whole Joey LaBute, that he disappeared when they had the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic, which is a bodybuilding competition. And so somebody might have come into town, found a victim, and left. So, but to say that it's all women, if you read the documentary, there's like other parents. The parents are pretty sharp. They don't believe the cops. A lot of these parents are like, no, my son was murdered by a group. There was one kid, one guy whose name was Pack, and his dad said there's a group of men in a car driving around Minnesota, going from city to city on the weekends, killing people. Flat out, that was his. Then, well, they killed my son. So,
well, I just wanted to
go. Scott Radel was his name.
Go to our chat room real quick. William Ramsey, they said they're not sure if it's because you're in California and a director, but this soft lit background, fuzzy with your stunning high definition up front is really making it the best picture we've ever had on the Conspiracy. So they're pumped about that. And they also were kind of breakneck when you went by the Obama thing real quick. Some people had not known about that, this Chicago safe sex room. You want to just go back to that, do 2 minutes on that? Maybe
sure.
People.
Well, there's a gay bar in in Chicago called Man's Country. And that was known, or they think that Obama was a member there. He was known to be a member there. And supposedly also Rahm Emanuel was a member as well. And they had, it was a gay club, but they had, torture rooms. One of the rooms was room 11. That was it. So that was there's a real big cleanup operation when he became presidential contender. We'll just leave it at that. But that was one of the things that nobody on the left would ever admit. And when they had the WikiLeaks leaks, there were two. The biggest leak was the Podesta emails, which they're still talking about today, which we can get into that.
Sure,
but there was
5,000 in hot dogs. That's one
of our
favorites. Yeah.
Exactly. So they're talking about that was the earlier leak. That was a different Series 7 leak. And those emails were saying we're having the hot dogs. So that's the code that verifies the Podesta leaks, because there was also stuff about maps, handkerchiefs, all these coded Epstein-type terms, right?
Yeah, and is that where the real truth in all this lies? The Epstein blackmail. We saw Podesta stick his head back out, trying to get back over with WAPO, thinking he could write from wherever he's held up. Because he's not out on the streets. He tried to come out on the streets and he got caught. I think slowly he's letting the heat cool off, but as soon as he sticks his head out again, somebody independent media is going to whack-a-mole his ass again. So,
well, it's interesting you say that, because if you look at these guys' Twitter feeds, Podesta, Dershowitz, nobody believes them. There's almost 5,000 people saying you're full of BS. They don't have any support. Nobody believes these guys. And Podesta is, Skippy, blood drinking. So yeah, you're absolutely right. These guys have been discredited, but it's going to get real worse. Epstein, I just read something today. They're going to put 1 million pages out. So this guy's totally connected in science. He's connected in Harvard. He's connected to Dershowitz. He's connected with a lot of politicians. And there's more things going on. There's things going on in New Mexico. So you're going to see the verification of what was called Pizzagate, which is really Pizzagate, and the whole comment ping pong came out of the Podesta email.
Sure. Yep. Well, before I switch gears, and I wanted to go back because to tie Crowley into the Smiley Face, but while we're on here on Pizzagate, how about the Chester Bennington connection? We've done a show on this, also with what's his name from Chris Cornell. We're talking blunt force trauma to the head, broken ribs, and no, they OD'd. So the autopsy is showing struggle. Unless, that you're the shittiest EMT ever and you're breaking people's ribs while you're trying to do, like CPR and shit like that. But blunt force trauma to the back of the head, no way. And also the fact that he went to NYU on a Clinton Foundation thing. The family was divorced. If you put the picture of Chester Bennington and Podesta side by side, it's undeniable in passing the eye test, that Shane McMahon is not a natural athlete at this time. And, it's just all right there, but it just still gets, brushed aside.
Oh, man.
What's the matter?
It's really bad. It's just really bad, the whole situation. They're whacking celebrities,
Yeah.
And the story of Randy Quaid, celebrity, he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
It's really true. You can get killed for anything. And, these guys operate like mobsters, and if you read some of the stuff, it gets really gnarly. So if you cross these very powerful billionaires, you end up deciding to go into the bathroom in your hotel and tie a rope around your neck and kill yourself. When you're rich, famous, everything, you could have everything.
Well, you only do that after you beat the shit out of yourself for a half hour.
Exactly. You punch yourself in the face. So.
Or shoot yourself in the back of the head with a staple gun 7 times, and it's suicide. But
you better send somebody good. They better be over 6 feet.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying when they come for it, you better send somebody good. I'm not selling for anybody under 240 pounds. So
yeah, he almost shot me, and he loves me.
So let me ask you a quick question, William. I mean, obviously, this has been a phenomenon for quite some time. Nothing's been done. Right off the bat, they dismiss it. You know, if they drown, whatever the case may be. It's an unfortunate circumstance. The same scenario, same gameplay, different areas, the 411 mysteries that people go missing in the. Do you think there's a connection somehow where all these people, and there's some kind of tie-in to the cops and the politicians on the top, and that's why they're turning their blind eye to this whole scenario?
Well, that's a great question. So Paulides did write a book about this phenomenon.
Yep.
Collected a lot of stuff. So I've tried to talk to him. Not very friendly. Not very friendly at all. And he wouldn't actually come to a conclusion. Like, I was asking him, do you think it's Bigfoot? Do you think UFOs are abducting? And that was it. He was having none of it. So he seems to really be interested in maintaining a mystery. As far as 411, people bring that up all the time when I bring up these cases. And I've distinguished them from those cases because they are all taking part in national parks and things like that. Mm-hmm. So really the cases that I've focused on, and there's so many other cases where somebody mysteriously dies or a young man, but all of these cases, these guys are found in water. So they disappear on a night out, they found in water. In my documentary, I think I put in 40 or 50 guys. So to kind of I think that the Smiley Face Killer phenomenon is distinctly different than 411. But as far as you mentioning the politicians, something odd is going on. You know, there's something really weird about Dakota James, for example, because really one of the big things in the case is that Cyril Wecht, very well-known forensic anthropologist who was involved in 2 of the cases. This is the real victim zero that got Gannon and Gilbertson involved was a guy called, I know I'm forgetting his name, but Cyril Wecht looked at that case, and he looked at the Dakota James case and said that there were ligature marks, which the police said were was blood pooling after he disappeared for 40 days. So dude, it's unbelievable. So if you look at the excuse of the prosecutor's office, it defies logic. So Cyril, you either saying
you locked up right there, like that's just like the red flag. Okay, we don't go any farther than this. How is this possible? How do you have a job? How are you justifying it? You know what I mean? Like, we know you're in on it with somebody's holding your feet to the fire. Now stooge on them, or else you're going down for collusion and protecting, who's really behind this. Like, where is that great American hero, Swamp Drain, John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, lawman, lawyer, or gunslinger, somebody who can back it up?
In the words of Stevie Richards, I'm sorry, real quick. In the words of Stevie Richards, it's the long game.
Well, that's a great point that you make, because I've been talking to people, and they need to actually start letting people into the legal profession who have courage, if you look at a lot of American heroes who've taken on very difficult cases, they've been in war, they've been in warfare, like the guy who took on the JFK was in World War II. I forgot his name.
Jimmy Garrison, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, so you'll see these guys who are real tough. They really have true grit, like an old cowboy.
Yeah.
Have been some of the best lawyers.
Well, it's that To Kill a Mockingbird. One of my improv mentors, T.J. Jagodowski, on his new one, that's his favorite. Atticus Finch, right, as the main character there, and the system of our entire court system is so far from what that morality was. We've diverted from that. There's no way to even, without scrubbing it clean or doing a whole new kind of bounty hunter law, to get somebody like that. And it seems like whether it's child trafficking that is kind of going on with these lawmen who said, come back from war, enough's enough. I've got a certain set of skills, and they would be beneficial for you to use them. What I wanted to say is, have you booked your Airbnb at the reopening of the Aleister Crowley compound?
No, I have not, but I have been watching it, so that'll be very interesting. I don't really like to spend too much time with Thelemites or people who like Crowley. So
dual society. Well, I was going to say, do you think this is connected in there, where I saw they're going to be shutting down for certain observances, pagan holidays, and wouldn't that be nice to do some more sacrifice, Smiley Face Killer style?
Right. Well, I do think that there's an occult angle to some of these deaths, no doubt. So, I mean, I'm not really ashamed to say that. I cult-related stuff, perhaps, but whether there's an overt things. I mean, I go into Peter Christopherson in the movie, who really is a black magician, like a literal living black magician who did all the art for Zeppelin, the monolithic arts. I think it was for Zeppelin 4 or something. And did all these music videos, and I think on the side he did that whole thing with for Broken with Trent Reznor, right? That I feature in the movie, where it fits the same profile, I think, is what's happening in Smiley Face Killers. They're going on the street, finding a victim, take him back to some place, and torture him.
There's a new movie coming out where what's her name hunts the elite hunt people they're taking off the street. What's her name?
Hilary Swank,
horse-face actress,
right.
Yeah, from Karate Kid.
There was a famous movie from a long time ago called The Most Dangerous Game. So it's about
yeah. I love the book when I was actually in junior high, man, to take it even back. So this narrative's been around, and is it just a Bohemian Grove stooge report really at this time,
I got a quick question about the murders once again. The pattern of them, they put them in water. They don't drown them. They put them in water. Is there a pattern, or is there any kind of ritualistic thing where they want the bodies to be found? Are they hidden in a place, or is it exposed? Say, here we are, and this is what we did.
Well, that's a great question. I think my conclusion is they're definitely found in water. If you look at the end of the Peter Christopherson video, the victim is actually in some kind of bondage being drowned, right? That looks kind of ritual. It's actually on the cover of my documentary, where this guy in a gimp mask got chained and being drowned. So whether it's ritualistic, I think the point of this MO, the real gist of it, is that it's confusing the police. Oh, he didn't actually get abducted. He was actually out late at night, wandered around, and was found in water and drowned. So I think that trick worked for decades, honestly. So my analysis is that somebody upgraded their skill set. Like, okay, there's not 18 men missing. There's just these unfortunate guys who somehow wander off by themselves, disappear, and then they're found in water and they're dead. So I think that's the real purpose. I've talked about the ritual aspect of this, whether there's some kind of inside thing going on, and it goes back to Pizzagate. This on the guy who owned Pizzagate, his icon was Antinous, right? Who was the ideal male lover of the Emperor Hadrian, who somehow was either murdered or ritually drowned in the Nile. And that's the story. So he was some kind of ideal love of Hadrian, and he was on Alephantis. He was Alephantis's...
James Alephantis.
Right. So some people have surmised, maybe that's really what's happening, is that these are young men, generally good looking. Nobody's fat, nobody of the victims. And you can see that on Gilbertson's analysis on Dr. Oz. He's showing the body size, or the body mass index, and all of the victims are towards the skinny side. So, as far as the ritual stuff is concerned, it's possible. The thing is that they've bungled the cases. McNeil. So McNeil was the first case. That was the first case that really was kind of victim zero, and that's what set off Gannon and Gilbertson. The reason Gannon and Gilbertson got together is Gilbertson was seeing the same phenomenon in St. Cloud as Gannon was seeing in New York. So that's how they teamed up, was because they both saw the pattern. So McNeil was found in water south of the Hudson. They never had the autopsy. It wasn't public. If the family wanted the autopsy, they got the autopsy, gave it to Cyril Wecht. Cyril Wecht says this guy was blowtorched. He was literally the actual things that he endured was that he was tied to a chair, and the blowtorch, because you could tell that the blowtorch wounds were in the upper part of the body, and he had somebody hit him with a hammer. So the guy was clearly tortured. And that really is showing that a lot of these autopsies are not being made public, either by intent or just people just take what the police said at face value. But now I think that the parents are really kind of going, come on, this doesn't make any sense. So they're really starting to get
a BTK type killer. You know what I mean? Is that's so specific, to do that, and that pattern of behavior is going to be repeated. But if you're not looking at it,
right,
excuse me, through the lens of multiple killings as an investigator and just the one of some crime of passion and not putting it up on the big wall and putting the piece of yarn between them to connect it. It takes somebody like you with the long scope of let's start putting all the pieces together and formulating, hey, why are we not looking at something bigger here? Whether it's an individual killer on a spree in whatever zone, Midwest, East Coast, or if it is this bigger collusion, it seems like it's all tied into it.
No, it's huge, man. There's a bunch of deaths in L.A. There's 5 missing guys in San Francisco they haven't found. There's a lot in Portland,
especially in the
Vancouver.
Is he like a boogeyman? Is he a boogeyman to like that? Now, are they more aware of that? Is like it's in the underground maybe of the gay community where they are aware and it just hasn't been brought out?
That's an excellent question, man. Really good question. There was a movie that was Al Pacino was in called Cruising, and it was filmed by the same guy who did The Exorcist. His name was I can't remember the director. Who directed The Exorcist? Actually made some good movies, To Live and Die in L.A. But anyway, the same director. They were trying to get, it was about a serial killer in the underground gay community, but they were trying to get it's kind of really super graphic. I was actually surprised that they got some of the stuff in there, but they were met with an immense amount of resistance. Some of these guys I think it was kind of pre-AIDS crisis. These guys would come out and harass them and make sure the filming didn't go on. So there was a lot of resistance to actually publicizing what was on in gay bars. So I think that there's the same thing with these types of crimes, is that certain segments of the gay community may know full well that this stuff goes on, but they don't want to tell the public. They don't want to come forward. And if you go into almost any gay community, I've seen this in my research into Los Angeles, and I'm sure it's the same with San Francisco. There's a place where you get leather, gimp masks, all kinds of gnarly stuff. So there's
I lived in Chicago, a block from Boys Town, which, is probably one of the safest neighborhoods. And if you want sushi and all the best restaurants and not to hear any gunshots, that's the place to be by Wrigley Field. You might hear a couple bitch slaps and lisps, but you're not going to get shot at that as much. And absolutely, there's, right down from the best Italian place, there's your, sexual fetish shop. That's just how it is in an underground community like that. So when it's on the street and in your face, think about what it is behind closed doors and how deep and dark it can get. And I wouldn't doubt if Rahm Emanuel and Obama were on the block at after hours, 2 to 4 in the morning, doing some dirt, because that was before anybody knew either of their names as heavy hitters.
Yeah, no, and they became heavy hitters. There was actually, when Obama got inaugurated, one of the deaths took place. There was a man who was abducted. And it's very strange. So it's the same type of thing with Joey LaBute. Whole bunch of people come in town, celebrate it, and a dude, your standard SFK victim, gets abducted. It's in my documentary. I wish I could remember his name. Let me see if I can find that. But that's another one where, like, and there's been serial killers who have their prey is found at busy events. So they're like going to get victims. At music venues, busy places. It's not outside of that.
Easy to get somebody away and nobody's going to see them split off. Classic abduction. I wanted to ask you as we start to wrap things up, because I do want to have you back on to talk Aleister Crowley. I'm going to grab your books off Amazon. You guys check them out. William Ramsey on Amazon. 2 great Aleister Crowley books that are up there now. Very well researched, like everything else this gentleman does. But are you, as you're on with 3 pro wrestlers, are you aware of Aleister Black?
No, but I think somebody sent me a picture of him who's like, he's kind of like an occult, like that's like his kind of character, right?
Yeah. He's got tons and tons of symbolic Crowley occultism tattoos all over him. They put him in black, dark rooms lit, and he speaks very Thulian, esoterically, old gentleman, like challenge you to a duel type shit. And then when they bring him out, he'll rise out of the stage coffin style and comes out, full mysticism, rising from the dead, reborn again. And, his matches are good and whatnot, but then he does a spot where he'll flip in the ring and go instantly into an Indian seated sit, kind of Crowley-esque meditation, and it's all sex magic.
It's all purely coincidence. It's all purely coincidence, along with all the other WrestleMania symbolism from 33 and all that stuff. WrestleMania 33 was literally, if you look at the set there, William, you'd pick up more than we would. And that costs like $4 million to build. You don't just mistakenly design that.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm also in documentary with Gary J. So they call it the phenomenon in Manchester, England. They call it the pusher. So they've taken these things, have gotten these different names: Smiley Face Killer, Pusher. And I had about 4 cases from Manchester that I researched. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many.
And maybe even bring you back on this, the abduction of the little girl there in Europe that they attribute to seeing the Podesta brothers as they drew.
Madeline McCann. Yeah, but I know Crowley, like, it's a little too much. I'm close to being a Crowley expert, but I mean, the thing about Crowley is that he was such a scholar that you really can learn a lot about the occult in general, because he aggregated so much information from Masonry, Eastern esotericism, yoga, Sufism, Mohammedism. It's pretty remarkable about how, like, imagine a guy who didn't have a job and studied occultism all day long. Like, he really became a scholar for that. So
sure. Yeah, very interesting. We'd love to have you back. GGP, anything else you want to wrap up here before we let them plug, promote, and say thank you, man?
No, I just want to thank you for coming on. Obviously, shedding light on something like this is very important, not only to young individuals who are attending college and maybe victim to something like this, but just to get the awareness out. You're helping us stay vigilant and helping everybody, just because knowledge is power. So the more people know, the more powerful they're going to become. So we're just, you're helping the cause, and I appreciate your hard work and everything that you do for this. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Stevie, cool.
I'm not going back to college. Fuck that.
And I don't fit the profile. So, I mean, I'm not young, sexy, and thin. So I feel a lot safer today. Although I have been on Stevie Richards Fitness, so we may need to add that to the disclaimer. If you do too much Stevie Richards Fitness, you may become a victim for the Smiley Face Killers.
I have a parody disclaimer PDF coming out, William. I'll send it to you. It's probably like 6 pages long, because in this day and age, you really have to spell a lot of things out for people. So you literally have to say, like, I do not want to get sued because you got in shape and decided to go to a bar and encounter the Smiley Face Killer. We have the chat room, and I'm really, really disgusted with the chat room, because 100% of them said that I would be the one that would probably be a serial killer, just because I look like Ted Bundy, which I don't.
Yeah, it's those steely blue eyes. I think that's what gives you away, Steve. William, please let everybody know where we can find you. We want to get that movie on Vimeo, Smiley Face Killer, easy to find there. Where else can we hear more of your stuff? YouTube, obviously.
YouTube. I have a podcast you can find on iHeartRadio. If you want to do the research I've done, all of my Jim Smith interviews are there. All the other people that I've interviewed around the Smiley Face Killers when I was doing my research. I just put out a new documentary called Occult Hollywood, which was something I redid. It's a redo of something I did 10 years ago. A lot of information about, really disturbing subjects, and Polanski and Kubrick and all these characters. So, the Smiley Face Killers documentary is very long. I think it's reasonably priced. It's only $5, but I think it'll give people an insight to what I think is really happening, which is really very disturbing. You don't want your family and friends involved in this. These families are ruined, traumatized, lost. For example, the Dakota James family has a head, and all their names are on it, but Dakota James is in situ. He's already buried, and all his parents, are sitting there just lost for this poor young man who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So it's a tragedy.
We hope that, tonight we can honor we crack a little levity because it's such a heavy topic, but Dakota James family, that someday, because of all the great work that you've done, and to be honest with you, you've set a new standard, I think, for we have a lot of producers here or truth seekers who have their own podcasts that really pay attention to us, and we try and set some type of an entertainment bar. But when it comes to the research wise and looking at it critically through the eyes of the law and investigator and putting it all together, completely impressive in the work that you've done. And I just want to put that over as well, man, because I know that is no small feat.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Those are very kind words. I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you, and we'll definitely put all your stuff out here and get more eyes on everything that you're doing, man. And hopefully we catch these son of a bitches in the act as it all falls down around us.
You might find that they're going to catch somebody a lot like Jeffrey Epstein in these cases. So
hope so.
It was good. The guy from NXIVM went down. Jeffrey Epstein is not getting out of jail, and it's good to see that the law enforcement is doing the work. So I commend them. And I commend you for all as well. So I appreciate you having me on.
All right, man. You have a great day. And anytime you want to come back to promote anything, we'd love to have you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
There you go, guys. Great guest, William Ramsey. I mean, we're trying to get the most high-level professionals, not just somebody who's, a simple blog writer. I'd really implore you, if you want to learn more about this,